Welcome to the Verdon Verdict Sports Show. I'm your host, Jacob Verdon. Hope everybody's having a good morning. Got a couple of practice notes for you. We went to practice yesterday, got some intel, got some information. When we looked it up, we got some other information as well from other spring camps. We got the SEC recap. We're going to start off with LSU. We'll tell you a little bit about Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Georgia, other contenders that you should potentially be keeping your eye on. Then we'll talk about the NCAA versus the House settlement. What does it mean for revenue share? What does it mean for NIL? How is LSU going to be affected? We'll recap LSU baseball, transfer portal, and we'll talk about our national championship picks. If you was trailing, I know you hype. We went 2 for 2. We've been on a damn heater lately, just in general. I'm not going to lie. It's been one of those times you just got to soak it up and be appreciative. As per usual, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, drop your comments. If you have any questions, any concerns, you want to join in on the discussion, always welcome. Let's talk about this spring ball, spring football, LSU. Everybody wants to know, how's everybody performing? Who's the standouts? What should I be looking for in 2025? Well, one of the biggest takeaways that I could tell you here, besides wide receiver, besides O-line, let's keep it tight end related. The chemistry that Nussmeier's developing with Barrett Sharp, I think it's going to be huge. I think that the tight end 2 is going to see plenty of reps. I think he's got a very pivotal role into the scheme. Obviously, Trades Green will be your guy that you're going to throw a lot of passes to. He'll be lined up out wide. I'm sure he can use some type of blocking as well. But Barrett Sharp's going to be your do-it-all tight end. And with the connection that he's been, kind of creating with the guys here throughout practice, it's hard to not notice, and it's hard to not see that he's almost instantly made his presence felt. It's hard to be a transfer on the offensive side, especially in this, conference, to come in and immediately be one of those pieces. But I think Barrett Sharp will be one of those. And I know we have Trades Green, but I think that there is a valuable spot for a second tight end that will be closer to the line of scrimmage, putting their hands on other defensive players, maybe even doing some block and release stuff. You really can get a variety from Barrett Sharp. And like I said, it seems like everybody's buying in around him, which is what you want to see. I mean, you don't want to have a transfer come in and then everybody kind of be a little standoffish around him, or, he doesn't fit in right away. Those are really the worst case scenarios. This, I would consider being the best case scenario. I mean, obviously, you saw the reel on a damn Instagram. He was dancing and cutting up with Nuss and Bo Bordelon and Trades Green. And it's like that, those moments, regardless of how you want to look at it, that's what makes these teams. You got a bunch of people in the chat all pissed off on the reels, like, oh, you don't need to be dancing, you need to be practicing. Look, bro, when you're having fun at practice, when you enjoy coming to work, now you're able to have a better attitude and I feel like a better result in the end. LSU's overall mood and the overall energy here through a couple of spring practices I've got to see, it does feel different than the last few years. The last few years, it was more of like they're proving themselves. They got some things to work on. And I'm not saying that they weren't confident or they didn't believe that they can make it, but I feel like if you had to put on a chart and rank the highest confidence level that LSU's had under Brian Kelly, I would think year 4 would be the one where you're the most confident. Let's talk about the offensive line. I think all of your confidence is going to revolve around how the trenches look for LSU because look, it's not cut and dry. It's not as simple as Will Campbell and Emory Jones get thrown out there anymore. Those are 2 generational talents that are going to obviously be first rounders. Emory might, slide to the second, but regardless, they've been here for 3 years, started all 3, and have been big pieces. Quite frankly, some of the best tackles that LSU football has ever seen. Now you're going to go into next season where you have to replace that talent. And some people, whether they took it for granted or not, are going to realize exactly how important that offensive line chemistry was. For our line, at least, I've seen some really good growth from 2 players and 2 players in particular. One of them being Paul Mubenga, the other one being DJ Chester. I think both of them are making their presence felt. They're going to be in the 5-man rotation. DJ Chester, I think, as of right now, he's still running center with the offensive line, 1 rotation. And I really don't think that's a bad idea. Obviously, you had some type of issues, but it all dates back to just your experience and your comfort in the scheme. Because if your first year of being a center snapping in the SEC is difficult, then naturally I would think that Braylon Moore could potentially run into that difficulty. Now, obviously, he could be ready, and he did play at Virginia Tech, so it's not a huge step up, but it is still a step up. DJ Chester has already had those reps under his belt. And I feel like at this point, you got to go with the continuity. You got to go with at least as much consistency as you possibly can. I think if you throw Tyree Adams out there, Paul Mubenga out there, DJ Chester out there, yeah, it's a theoretically newer look, but that's the squad that's been in that room, cutting up with those guys, learning from those guys, ready to step in whenever inevitably Will Campbell and Emory Jones left. And I think now you're going to be able to see them get right in. Paul Mubanga, he was getting a lot of one-on-one love. If you go look at the highlight videos, Brad Davis is sitting there trying to tell him how he should get a little lower, how he should try to, kind of squat a little deeper to get some more leverage so he's not pushed all around. In the moment, like as a player, when you're at practice and it seems like everything you're doing is getting nitpicked, you get a little aggravated, right? And I mean, you didn't see it here naturally with Paul Mubanga. I'm not saying this is a situation, but just generally speaking, a player normally doesn't enjoy the criticism. However, I've got news for you. If a coach is coming up to you with criticism, not only is it more than likely constructive, but it's probably an indicator that he has high expectations for you. A coach is not going to walk up to you during practice and theoretically waste his time and other people's time to stop the drill and explain to you what you need to be doing. And he's not doing it in a condescending way. He's doing it in a coaching way. That's why, Brad Davis. That's why Brad is exactly what he is. He's been putting out perennial talent at this position, and I think he's been recruiting really big dogs here. He knows what he has with him. He knows what motivates him. And in Paul Mubanga's situation, sometimes you got to get on him. If you go back and look at some of the more contact drills, Brad's screaming every single chance he gets. D lineman getting too close, screaming. Somebody not, trying hard enough, screaming. Somebody says something, screaming. It sucks in the moment, but that's how you get on these guys. That's how you get tough. That's how you get a group of 5 men in the trenches who would do anything to stop somebody from touching Garrett Nussmeier. I'm enjoying what we're seeing. A lot of work going on between O-line and D-line. They're doing the whole iron sharpens iron thing, and it's going to work because at the beginning of the camp, my first, overall take was that the defensive line was playing miles better than the offensive line. Now, obviously, there's a variety of things. First, being the limited amount of snaps that we get to see. I'm sure that the O-line gets their own versus the D-line as well. However, what we are able to witness, the offensive line is definitely going to have some work to do. Now, granted, you got time. You got a summer. You got fall. You even got a couple of weeks potentially in the season because in the first year, Brian Kelly, you didn't have your final line till week 7. So, I mean, naturally, there's going to be time. Hopefully, it doesn't take as long. But I do think, the O-line and D-line contact periods, it's going to be something we're going to focus on heavily because that's where you're going to see the most growth, the most transition, the most kind of, look into the offensive line rotation that they're comfortable with throwing out here. Let's talk a little more about spring football for LSU. I want to talk about a couple of injury reports here. So first things first, Jacobian Guillory back at practice, returning from the Achilles injury. I'm not sure exactly how long he's been cleared, but we saw him with pads. We saw him with the helmet. He's in cleats. It looks like he's 100% cleared to go. That's a good sign for LSU fans because the defensive tackle position is one, as of right now, where you're worrying a little bit. It's another injury here in this room. Sadir Mitchell. He went down yesterday at practice. He was carried off. There's no official word yet on his injury. Looks like a left leg, lower extremity injury. Looks to be in a little bit of pain, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to say I don't think it's anything major, but just, him standing up, them kind of like getting their arms around him and walking him off. I think if it was something really, really, really big, they probably would have brought the card out. They might not have gotten him up on his feet that fast. All in all, Sadir's a really tough kid. I'm going to be honest. If you think defensive linemen are playing 100% healthy, I got news for you. There's a lot of linemen in general that have to play with banged up, pieces, a jam finger, a sprain this, a sprain that. This is going to be nothing new for him. And I'm not saying that he should push through it. I'm just saying that I think he could potentially be one of those pieces you throw out there at 80%, 85%. I think he's that good. I think he's shown so much through camp that if this is not something major and it's just a little tiny nagging injury, he'll be fine. He'll be perfect. I wouldn't get worried. I wouldn't hold your breath. I think this will be a situation that, it'll work itself out. We'll keep more eyes on it, though. Like I said, D-line looking great. It really would be a bummer at this point to be able to lose somebody like that. I don't think you will. I think that the spring, you got to be safe in the spring. That's why they're doing what they're doing with Harold Perkins. That's why they're doing what they're doing with Whit Weeks. You got to make sure that whoever you got out here, there's not a lot of risk for potentially ending a season prematurely. We want to get all our guys on the same page and we want to be locked in for when August comes around, but we also want them to be healthy so when August comes, we can call their name. Let's talk more about the offense here. We did defense. We did O-line. Let's talk about tight ends. Talk about run block, passing. Alex Atkins is over here, obviously run game analyst, and he'll be an assistant on that side of things. He was working with the tight ends. He was working with the tight ends on some catching traffic drills, on some blocking drills, specifically though it looked like the run blocking. I'm going to double down on the Buyer Sharp tape. I really like the way that he is incorporated into this scheme. I feel like the tight end position, it's not necessarily underrated, especially through the last few seasons. You've seen a lot of attention get put into that spot. But now that you got two of them that I think are starter calibers, and I mean like SEC starter calibers, you got Byron on one side, Trudez on the other. If you want to run a double set, if not, then obviously when Trudez is, gas potentially or lining up as a wide receiver, then you can throw him out there. There's so many concoctions here, and I know that this offense is going to get creative. I've seen a lot. I've seen Bayer and Trudez play at the same time. Shit, last year we saw a triple tight end set with Kamori and Pimpton, Trudez, and Mack, but I have also seen things like a split back with Xavier Thomas in the backfield with a halfback. I've seen all kind of things from LSU football. This offense here, I think, they're trying to see what they can shake out of here, especially in the wide receiver lineup spot. Right now, they're running Chris Hilton, Zay Thomas, Aaron Anderson. I don't know if that's going to be the final three. It wouldn't. I'm not gonna say it wouldn't make sense, but it's a little shorter side of it. Chris Hilton, obviously speedy. He could be your vertical threat guy, but doubling down on a Zay and an Aaron. I'm not gonna say I don't see it happening, but I could see Nick Anderson sliding in, potentially taking Xavier Thomas out, and only because when I was talking about that split back role, when I was talking about the people getting in the backfield and having two halfbacks back there, Xavier Thomas was one of the people they were lining up next to Caden Durham. Xavier Thomas was getting thrown out there, catching little swing routes, catching little screen passes, little quick game dump offs. I'm not saying you need him out wide. I'm not saying you need him on the line, but he could probably play and run just as damn near every route he was going to run out of the backfield. So it'll be something interesting. I'm not saying you sit Caden Durham. I'm not saying you sit Caleb Jackson, but there could be some pass opportunities where number 0 is out there in the backfield getting active. We'll be back at practice on Thursday. The spring game obviously is Saturday. There will be more content coming. There'll be more spring game edits too. I mean, look, we're talking about a spring game. It'll be more like a practice. It's Saturday, obviously. If you're there, shout out. Let us know what you want to see. Drop any comments in the chat. We'll get a shot list together for you for Thursday morning. But hit that subscribe button so you don't miss that. Let's talk SEC football. Let's talk spring camp. We talked LSU. I'm going to give you a rundown on a couple of other spring camps going on in the Southeastern Conference. Let's start it off with Texas. They've got the confidence of a contender. I'm not going to lie. They've got a lot of things going the right way. I think they could be the next dynasty. They've got not a lot of holes to replace. Obviously, they got Arch Manning, so that gives them a lot of confidence. Wisner's back. The Sarkisian era here in Texas and the Texas era in the SEC, even though it's been 1 year, it's been pretty instantaneous. It's been pretty successful, and I feel like it's not going to slow down now. Matter of fact, it might only ramp up. Making an SEC appearance in your first year gives you the rub, gives you the taste of what's the big picture. But I think they could have won just about any other conference in college football last year. I mean, I think they really could have won the SEC championship if they played a little different way. But all in all, I mean, this was potentially the second to third best team in college football. With the way that the bracket shakes out and the way that everything happened, obviously it didn't work out. But that's besides the point. I think Texas has the potential to be one of the best teams in college football. And naturally, it's going to go through number 16, Arch Manning. How is he playing? How's the confidence going with him? He's getting more comfortable into that starting role because he's getting into the media, he's doing the interviews, talking about the success, the attention, all this different things. And you really have had a hush-hush Arch Manning until this point, until he's the guy. And another question's been popped up, and we talked about it on Monday. How realistic is it for Arch Manning to even enter the draft next season? Because you are just now getting into the position where you're the guy. 1 year and you're good. You're not giving yourself enough room, I don't think. I mean, look, I could be wrong. A lot of players that I've watched, especially at the quarterback level, when they return for another season, even a second season rather, for their starting spot, it's normally the year where the most success occurs. We can obviously dial it back to Jaden Daniels. There's a lot more examples that you can give. Hopefully, Garrett Nussmeier will add his name to that list. Let's talk about Georgia. Got the man on the left here. Quarterback battle's not over, though. You got Brock Vandagriff, you got Gunnar Stockton. They're still swinging it out. I'd have to guess that Gunnar gets it, but you never know in this situation. They're going to probably go with the person that they think can consistently run an offense. Maybe not the flashiest guy. Hopefully, they got the highest ceiling. But I think, they're going to try to keep it at a consistent production level to have them be a contender. I don't think they want to make a decision where they're taking a big shot. They're going to probably take their safe chance, especially with the defensive situation they got on. Not a lot of injuries, but they're thin at offensive linebacker. They've had some portal departures, and it's a real novel spot for Georgia football in recent memory because their defense, especially the linebacker and this whole overall like line pressure area, it's been phenomenal. I mean, it has been phenomenal. Trayvon Walker, Jalen Carter, you got all kind of pieces that you've seen come through UGA, but I'm not saying it's ending now. It's getting thinner. It's getting harder and harder to find names. Obviously, they got the transfer linebacker, number one linebacker in the portal from Colorado. I believe his name is Mackay. Now, that's a good addition. However, there's something to be said about the team developing a player and putting all their trust into him and putting him in a situation where he's gotten to see the ropes, right? And then now he's up and then leaving and bringing that culture or that, overall focus to another team. I think this is how college football inevitably changes. And I mean, for the good, for the better, we can always talk about this, and we won't a little bit with the NCAA in the house, but the tops of the trees are getting cut here in the forest. Let's just talk about it like that. The Georgias, the Alabamas, all these big teams that have had all the players, deep rosters, 5 stars out the, years. Number one portal class, number one this, number one that. Now you're in a situation where it's not as prevalent, and it's all going to get spread thin. You have one good season in college football, college basketball, whatever the hell sport you play, you could hit that portal and get paid. And that is creating a situation where I think the competition is getting more even across the board. That's just my take on it, though. Let's talk about Alabama. I'll give you some rundowns on Alabama, on Ole Miss, on Tennessee, and then we'll move into this NCAA in-house settlement. If you got any questions, any concerns, anything you want to talk about, drop them in the chat. We'll pop it up on the screen. Hit that like button real quick, as per usual. But Alabama. Now, this is the one that I had to circle the most. This is the one that I'm really interested in the most in terms of what's going on with them in their spring football period. They have a couple of injuries, not big ones, but there's one that I think is a minor one that led to them shutting him down for the entire spring period. Ryan Williams, the coveted wide receiver who in his first year just took the college football by storm. Everybody knows Ryan Williams, and nobody can guard Ryan Williams in turn. But now he's in a situation where, got a couple of things that they're going to watch, and he's going to be shut down for that spring game. That's what the word on the street is if you put your ear down on the ground at Tuscaloosa. Now, D-line, middle linebacker, they're in a little bit of a bind as well, too. They've got some injuries at that spot. They're a little thinner, and I think they might even have to go pluck something out the portal. This is the beauty of the second portal, though. Everybody wants to know, why is there a second transfer portal window? Well, one, there's so many damn players entering the portal that you got to have 2 windows. And the only way that they're trying to, somehow keep it more fair, I guess, across the board is if they close it during spring football. So everybody that's on a roster by January, whatever, 20th or whatever the hell the date is, has to stay until the April period. It gives the coaches a little bit of a chance to, keep their doors closed and not have people running in and out. Because if you didn't have it regulated in this sense, it would be very hard to build a program and very hard to keep players on the squad. But Ole Miss, same situation. Lane's being smart, trying to be real concealed about everything that's going on, about the revenue sharing in general. He was saying it's a strategic approach. Whatever they're going to do to it is something that they want to keep close to the vest because naturally it's going to be an advantage for them. And everybody's going to have their own responses and their own ways to try to theoretically get around what this issue is. It'll be interesting to watch how Lane Kiffin handles that. They're in a new quarterback era. I believe this is his 3rd quarterback in 6 seasons. He's going to be in the Austin Simmons era. It'll be a little interesting. I'm not going to lie. I think Ole Miss is a team to really keep an eye on. They had a really, big outlook for last season. I didn't buy it too much. I didn't sip the Kool-Aid. I'm not big on being, caught in the rankings of the classes. Like for LSU having a number 3 class, very excited. I'm more excited that you are returning a lot of production, especially a quarterback that could be one of the best. And then you've got consistency on the staff. That's going to woo me more than being a number 1 class. And for Ole Miss, it was kind of the same thing. I wasn't too big on them being the number 1 portal class. I didn't think that they had a lot of weapons to be able to have depth in this conference or just in college football in general. And this year, I'm going to double down and say the same thing. Ole Miss is a very good team. I think Lane Kiffin's a very good coach. But if Jackson Dart and Trey Harris and Amos, all these people are on the squad and you're not getting her done, I don't know if when they leave, you're going to get her done. I think you're pretty much in a spot where you got to portal something in. If you're Ole Miss, you need a big swing to add one more big piece before the season. But hey, look, Lane Kiffin's also been in a spot where he is potentially turned over a new leaf with the Grove. You never know. You never know at the end of the day. Tennessee, they're more so trying to figure out their offensive tackle duo. I believe they found it. It's going to be David Sanders and Lance Hurd. Lance Hurd, obviously former LSU Tiger, transferred to Tennessee. Um, I think Josh Heupel has a pretty good spot on his hands. You got a quarterback returning to Nico as well. Really, though, it's all going to come down to how these teams are going to be able to play when they're playing top SEC teams. You can win all the games you want. You can do, 8 wins, 9 wins. But if Georgia comes to town and you lose that game, it ain't going to work out. So Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, I think those are 3 SEC teams with stocks on the way down. I'm not going to lie. If this was a company, you'd sell that stock right now. That's my take on it. Let's move into this segment. Everybody's been hearing me, mention it briefly, NCAA versus the House settlement. But what is it? What is it? Monday was one of the last hearings, theoretically. Let me explain to you exactly what this lawsuit is. It's claiming that NIL restrictions were a violation of federal law, and there's a revenue share proposal that will allow schools to share 22% of their annual athletics revenue. It's going to be about $20 million at first. Every single year up to the next 10 years, it'll rise $1 million a year, getting to $30 million by 2035. The settlement is going to award roughly $2.8 billion to NCAA athletes dating all the way back to 2016. These athletes have potentially, suffered from not profiting off of their NIL, from schools profiting off of them, or whatever the case may be. But really, what it boils down to at a fundamental level is now kids are getting paid, and a lot of other athletes who feel as if they deserve to get paid are saying, hey, what the hell? Why not me? Why can't I get a piece of this cheese? Everybody here, let's take the Chris Jenkins shot at Villanova, for example. I don't know if you remember when Villanova banged one like 6 to 8 years ago to win the championship. I believe it was in Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. However, that's besides the point. Chris bangs a three-pointer. Villanova wins. Chaos ensues, and naturally a $20 million donation goes to the Nova. And now Chris Jenkins is thinking, hey, I made the shot. Matter of fact, there hadn't been a three-point buzzer beater in the finals or in the damn March Madness natty until Chris Jank. And he didn't see a dime. Now he wants to see a dime. He wants to see a lot of dimes. He's going in and having a lawsuit on his own individually. He's not even going to be a part of this. He's going to try to go attack the source directly. Also, another thing I'm going to note, the athletes, their pay is going to range based off the sport, based on the performance, based on the production. Not everybody's getting a certain, check amount. Like for comparison, softball versus football, it's going to be 2 different numbers. You got some softball or men's basketball programs that will see 6 figures, 100%. And then naturally, you got other teams that only see a few $100s. Now, that's one of the things I think that's a proposed issue, right? The hearing and all this settlement, it's not officially approved. It's not over. It's looking good. They're in the right direction. They didn't get denied, but they have proposed changes that they have to fix. There's a few issues left that people are pointing out saying, hey, this ain't right. And one of them is going to be that. One of them is going to be the money distribution. Some people are feeling as if it's not fair, as if it's not even. Judge wants it to be reviewed. She's quoted saying she thinks it's a good settlement. She's considering delaying it to 2026, but she will allow for another review soon within the next week or 2. The people that are creating the bill have to go back and fix some of the issues. Here are the issues. I got 3 of them that I wrote down for you. The first one that I'm going to address is the roster limits. It's going to shrink rosters. It's going to scare the hell out of everybody. It's going to limit the ability for walk-ons to be able to go onto a squad. Now, it's not going to ban it, but it threatens walk-ons very, very bad. Why? Because every player you're going to sign is counting against your cap. It don't matter if they're not playing. It don't matter if you just signed them and they're 17 years old, they're an early enrollee, and they're about to redshirt. He's getting paid. He's on your salary cap. This is professional sports now. You want to pay your players. Now you're in a situation where you're getting held accordingly. Salary cap, restrictions, regulations, the whole 9 yards. Now, this is the issue that they have to work out. If you have roster limits, if you have to change things, there are athletes currently that have made plans to be an athlete for your university regardless of the roster cap. They had no earthly idea that the roster cap was coming in and potentially shrinking the amount of athletes that are going to have to, be signed. If football's capped to 105 people and baseball's capped to 35 and both basketball teams are capped to 15, there's only so much money to go around, $20 million to be exact. That's a guaranteed 200-ish athletes that are going to be paid. Now every other sport gets, adjusted directly after the fact. That's going to be one of the things that people are going to have to watch. The current players who exceed the limits, if they started this revenue share in August, I think will be grandfathered in. You're going to have to keep all the athletes here, even if they're over the limit. If you got a tennis team that needs 12 people and you got 14 and the 2 people have been here for 2 years, they need to be grandfathered in straight up, because you can't kick athletes off because of the revenue sharing spot. Now, naturally, the more players you sign, the next recruiting classes, all of those things I think should fall under the new regulations. But as of right now, in terms of roster limits, I'm going to advocate for the current players to not lose their spot. That's crazy. Second issue, we talked about the equality, the paying, all this stuff. I don't think it'll be close to being equal. I don't think it can be equal. We just talked about how many roster spots are guaranteed per sport. I said baseball gets 35, basketball gets 15 each, and football gets 105. That ratio is getting thrown off bad. And with Title IX, obviously, there's a ratio of female students to male students, and then there's a ratio of athletic opportunities for male, considering, how many opportunities are for women. What that means is if there is a sport created for a male at a university, in turn, they have to also create a female opportunity to be able to propose the same amount of roster spots. There always has to be an equal amount of roster spots and opportunities for both genders here on a university. I think that would be a hiccup, because Title IX has been one of the biggest focuses for any college, whether it be here, there, anywhere. Title IX is the focus. Title IX is what's, keeping the profits in, making everything equitable across the board. It's not even just athletics. It's education. There's a lot of different things, a lot of different nuances, a lot of different factors. I think a lot of people are going to be worried about how it's going to fall back on it. The revenue share, the distribution. How is this going to create some headache for the athletic department? That's going to be one of the issues you got to figure out. You got to figure out how to keep the people on the rosters happy and not kick off the wrong people. And you got to figure out how to make everybody feel as if it's a type of even distribution. Obviously, the revenue, if you're making a certain amount of revenue, I do think, let's put it this way. If football is making 80% of the revenue, right, naturally it makes sense for football to get 80% of the budget. Just specifically speaking, because of the roster size, the amount of resources that you need, and the amount of production that's coming from that sport. There are going to be other instances where it's complete opposite. There's going to be instances where a school is a more basketball dominant school, and they're not going to be as focused to giving 100 scholarships. They might give 85. They might put more money toward the basketball side of things, especially if you're in the Big East or if you're in the ACC, bro. Ain't nobody trying to win a football national championship. I mean, I know that you could. I know that you'd love it. It's unlikely. In these basketball schools, like your Gonzagas or your Villanovas, they're going to want to put their chips on the table for the men's hoops. So there's going to be an interesting, fix to this. Last issue that I'll propose is that teams are obviously going to do workarounds. There's so many things that can muddy the waters for NIL and just ruin it for everybody. And I think the more the NCAA get involved, the more murky it gets, quite frankly. They're not a cut and dry organization. They don't have, fair, transparent rules across the board. And a lot of people have a lot of different reasons as to why. But I think that it'll be an interesting situation, because you're going to have a double-folded problem. You're going to have a more transparent NIL deal system where players who potentially get paid a certain amount of money are going to have to be counted on the cap, right? So the Bryce Underwood situation, perfect example. I'm going to give you an example to make it very clear and understandable. LSU is recruiting a quarterback that is deemed the number one prospect, right? Last minute, somebody calls, gives them a check, rumored to be $12 million, rumored to be 15, whatever the hell it is over double what LSU offered. Now you're in a situation where that counts against your salary cap. That is not fair market value of a player, and that's going to get through a clearinghouse and be put on their revenue share budget. So this is what they're trying to slow down. Any deal over $600 is going through a clearinghouse. That clearinghouse will look at the deal, look at it, see if it's fair, see if it has some type of value. There's going to be other positions that open up as well. I mean, they're going to have new jobs across the board. You got Andrew Luck joining Stanford as a GM. You're going to have a lot of other GMs and a lot of other programs. It'll be interesting to watch this. I think it'll be a huge step for NIL. I think schools, are going to benefit from it. If you told me 8 years ago that athletes are directly going to get paid from their universities, everybody would have been surprised. I wouldn't have believed you. I feel like the support that it's getting across the board from coaches is going to help. I really don't see, like the judge said, I don't see it not working. Looks like a good settlement. Update coming in 1 to 2 weeks. Like I said, need to fix the proposed issues and then give time for potential objections to those fixes. Let's talk about baseball real quick. We got a question in the chat. Let me go ahead and go to that. Jay White, how do you feel about our interior D line? Well, Jay, I don't know if you were in the stream at the beginning. Talked about it a little bit, but I was a little worried. Only not big. Here's the thing. So if Sadir Mitchell goes down and it's something major, God bless, at least you get some type of growth from Ahmad Bro and Dominic McKinley. Those are two sophomores that I think are going to have really big roles for LSU, right? Naturally, Kyle Williams comes in. He's going to put a big focus on the younger guys because that's going to be the pieces that are the future of his room. Jacoby and Guillory is going to have a big season. He just returned from Achilles, so I'm really glad that he's back on the field. It's good to see him back. He's a good piece in that room. But Jacoby Guillory is having one season. He's going to the NFL, and he deserves it. He's had a run here at LSU, but it just goes to show that the focus here in interior defensive line, in turn of having a physical and really imposing trench, group, you also want one that's bright and for the future, still letting people cut their teeth. So the Sadir Mitchell thing, I think it's a minor injury. I do think it could be one of those blessing in disguises where now Dominic and Ahmad get to slide in, take the roles, and then boom, you got 4 people that could potentially be ready on the interior of the D-line when it comes time to August. Sadir, Dominic, and Ahmad. Obviously, more names can get plug and play, but the pressure that they've been putting has been phenomenal. I think the defense is night and day comparatively to the last few years. One of the biggest things that they're going to have to watch, though, is when we bring back Harold Perkins and Whit Weeks. I want to see how they slide in. I want to see how the Mike plays with them, if it's Wes, when it becomes Devon. There's a lot of things that I'm going to be watching here for LSU. Appreciate your time, Jay. Let's talk about LSU baseball. So if you watched last night, everybody was holding their breath. Woo, for the first 7 innings of the game, it looked like you were in a little bit of a bind. And, I mean, we sitting here talking about all these teams losing, all these rankings changes and all this stuff. Boy, LSU almost put them in a spot where they were going to get dropped out of the damn top 10. Right now, they're 31-3. They're on a 9-game win streak, but they started out down 0-3 till they went on a 5-run inning in the 7th. Shout out Will Schmidt, freshman pitcher, came in and relieved the final 4 innings. He's 5-0 right now, recorded a career-high 8 strikeouts. When he walked in versus when he walked out, the Nichols batters went 0-13 the minute Big Will Schmidt stepped on the mound. Shout out to him. LSU used a total of 10 batters in the 7th inning, batted around the lineup, got their 5 runs in. Shout out to them. This Friday, SEC showdown at Auburn. They're 5-1 on the road in the conference. Only loss coming to Texas. It'll be interesting. LSU baseball is hitting their stride. You always got moments where you get a little worried. Nichols yesterday on the road in Thibodeau, that was one of them. Guess what? You gave them boys a show. You gave them a 7th inning stretch. Jared Jones waited in line for the porta potty, and then you head back to Baton Rouge, and now you're going to take a trip to Auburn here shortly. Now, that was a crazy meme. I don't know if y'all saw that. Damn porta potty for the LSU baseball players. Come on, bro. We gotta step up the facilities over there. Women's transfer portal. Let's talk about this. Olivia Miles is going to TCU. Tanaya Latson to South Carolina. Those are 2 big moves, 2 big blows, too, because I would have loved to see LSU add either one of these pieces. Now, LSU, they're in a little bit of a spot, I think, because you got 4 players coming in the recruiting class, making it the number 1 recruiting class, and they're all 4 guards at that. I think the future of the guard position at LSU is pretty clear-cut and dry. It's going to go through, hopefully, Flau'jae Johnson, potentially a piece like Kaylin Gilbert. Jada Richard's even a good name to be thrown out there. Then, naturally, you got Bella Hines coming in. You got a lot of other pieces, too. I think the amount of guards that you're bringing, obviously, Divine Grace and Zakiya, I think, will play more of a 2 guard. Grace Knox could potentially be a point guard. But those 2 guards, too, it puts you in a spot where you really don't got to worry about the backcourt too much. Now, front court, you signed Kate Koval, 6'5", top recruit. She committed to Notre Dame, then left. She was on a recruited visit last year. I believe she came same time as Sarah Strong, who is killing it. Absolutely killing it. Already has a ring, 25 and 17 games, everything across the board. Hopefully, Kate Koval can be one of those type of pieces. 6'5", like I said. You lose Aaliyah Del Rosario in the portal. And now you're in a spot where you have to make sure you got pieces. Samaya Smith is going. ADR is going. I mean, Jersey Wolfenberger is going to stay. And Nisa Morrow is going. You got a lot of issues at that spot, at the big spot. Naturally, there could be some more pieces coming in. I want to talk about Leah Del Rosario, though. Everybody's instant reaction with her was that she couldn't play in the SEC, right? That's the first take. Can't play in the SEC. Not going to be able to play in the SEC. I ain't subscribing to the theory. I don't think Aaliyah Del Rosario is horrible. I think she has a lot of size, and you ain't teaching that. I think if you put her in a spot where she's getting minutes and she's getting an opportunity, she's a great athlete. She wasn't getting an opportunity that well. Now, there's a lot of pieces in front of her. I get it. Now, I'm not saying that the rotation should be deep or not, whatever the case may be, but I'm not also going to say that Aaliyah Del Rosario is not talented. She's definitely talented. She's also in a spot where she was averaging 6 minutes a game. When she did get in, when her minutes increased to double digits or 13 or whatever the hell it may be, then she was actually having an opportunity, getting 7 points, getting 6 points. In the first round, I believe she played 13 minutes, got 9.7 rebounds. Nothing crazy, but it's a good role, and it's a good start. I mean, if you're coming off the bench, not having a lot of confidence, not getting, not watching the ball go through the bucket, all these different things, it's going to be hard to get going. But then you throw her out there, and in 13 minutes, she almost puts up a damn double-double. It looks like she has the potential. Now, I'm not saying she can be a superstar, but I'm not going to go as far as to say she can't play in the SEC. I think that's a crazy take. I feel like she could play at a pretty big team. She might even sign to a big squad. She's a big guard, or not big guard, big forward. She's like, damn, 6'5". I don't even know. That's rare. That's 7 foot at the other level. Let's talk about one more thing before we hop out of here. We've been on a damn heater. Straight up. We've been on fire. Somebody got to put us out, bro. We gave you 2 picks. Both of them hit. Under hit, Florida hit. It didn't look good in the beginning. It don't matter how it looked during it, though. Because at the end, we know who got the trophy, and we know what cashed. So everybody can celebrate. Damn good picks. Absolute heater. If you bet, you're welcome. You're welcome. If you didn't bet, stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button. We got more picks coming. As a matter of fact, I'm open the floor. If you want a pick segment, specifically NBA, whatever we're betting, drop it in the comments below, because I'm telling you, we've been on a lit time. But let's talk about the game a little bit. Come back for Florida. They looked out of it in the first half. Clayton Jr. couldn't buy a shot. I mean, his free throws were saving him. The and ones down the stretch are really big. I think he turned it up in the second half. But initially, you were in a bind. If you were a Florida Gator fan, whatever the hell, just in Florida in general, you were not happy. They were even down out of the break in the second half into a spot where a lot of people were questioning if they're going to be able to come back. And then naturally they come back. My takeaway from it, I got 2 things. One, Houston's going to be back for sure. Great program. There was a few mistakes made, obviously. They had a national championship through halftime, in my eyes. It looked like it was over. They just had to come out, consistently put out that second half effort that everybody's been talking about them giving. It's hard, though. You're in the tournament. You're playing a game every few days against a foreign opponent that you have pretty much never played. And plus, you're going to overtime and you're doing all these different extenuating games. There's not a schedule that mimics the March Madness environment. You don't have many gauntlets like this that you're running through. So, I mean, I get it. I think the SEC basketball levels are brutal, too. I mean, if you look at the board, you got Florida, you got Auburn, you got Alabama, Tennessee, Ole Miss, A&M, Texas. Where does LSU fit in that? I don't know. I'm worried. The more that I see SEC teams grow and dominate, especially at the men's basketball level, the more I wonder how close we are to success. Because if you ain't making a tournament in about, 3 years, it's hard for me to think you just instantly go in and have a good one. I just rattled off 8 damn SEC teams that could potentially make some noise. Honestly, you almost had a full SEC Final Four. You were so close. If Tennessee and Alabama didn't get bopped on the head, I would have been insane. Regardless of the point, Florida winning a national championship is great. Congratulations to them. It muddies the waters for Matt McMahon and LSU, though, because there's a clear-cut favorite in the SEC, and there's a clear-cut second, third, fourth, fifth, and it's not LSU. They're rebuilding good in the portal, and I got hope, but they got a lot of other teams and a lot of other things to be proud of right now. So it'll be interesting to watch how they translate this. I hope they can get some more pieces. I think they got the number 3 portal class right now. They've been working, so shout out to them. I ain't gonna count you out just yet, but it's been an interesting spot. I'm gonna go ahead and get off of here. Like I said, tomorrow we're back at practice. Stay on the lookout. Around 10 a.m. We'll have the highlights up for you as well. We'll be live Friday at 9 to break it down. If you got any questions, anything you want us to look at in particular at practice, comment below. We will read it. We will watch it. We will add it to the list. That's for sure. This has been the Verdant Verdict. I'm your host, Jacob Verdant. Y'all have a great day. Please hit that thumbs up on the way out of the stream. Y'all have a good one.